see how this works out. Oh man, that's dark. Can I lighten this up? There we go, that's a little better. Another early morning recording here. It's raining, so I don't know how much of this is going to come through. I want to talk about that New York Times hit piece against our current sitting president. It's a long hit piece, a really long story. That's worse. I can do that. It's a long hit piece. So I have no idea how long they spent actually researching this and digging through all of their documentation, all their alleged documentation. But they definitely spent a lot of time writing it and proofing it. I found very few actual typographical or grammatical errors. So kudos to you, New York Times. You still have people who know how to compose a sentence. And it is kudos, not kudos. It's kudos. It's Greek. So it's a really long piece talking about the Trump family history and how Trump's allegedly humble starting business loan of like $200 million was a lot more than he's leading it on to have been. He supposedly, his father was a massive tax dodger throughout the 90s, and he and his brother were instrumental in playing shell games with incorporations and limited liability corporations in the 90s, in the late 80s and early 90s. They were absolutely instrumental in tax dodging as well. And their sources for this, supposedly they have tens of thousands of pages of documentation, public and private. And I don't care about the public documents. I don't care about anything that he's publicly released. But my question about the supposedly private documents that they've gotten a hold of, the financial records, the business documents, isn't that illegal? Getting a hold of someone's banking information, their personal banking information, without their consent, isn't that illegal? I get anything that has to be publicly disclosed to the state, but isn't getting a hold of someone's personal financial data like a felony? Isn't this something that you don't want to be broadcasting that you've done? I'm legitimately asking. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know this answer, but it seems to me like that is something that can get you in a shitload of trouble, especially when it's the president and you're bragging about it. This story is not going to affect Trump. I'm going to tell you why this story isn't going to affect Trump. Nobody cares anymore about Trump's taxes. I wish he would release more of his taxes than he already has. But what he has released show that he paid more taxes in 1 year than I will earn in a lifetime. So most of the American people don't care about his taxes. They care about their taxes. And what is Trump doing for their taxes? Well, he is reducing their tax burden. There are spending bills that are preparing to go through the House and Senate that are finally getting us off the teat of this omnibus spending bill and the fiscal cliff that we face every year to continue funding the federal government. That's being broken down out of these big pork barrel bills into their own individual funding. Finally, for the first time in like 20 years, we're not going to be facing a standoff between Republicans and Democrats. And this is the tool that the Democrats have primarily used to try and stonewall the Republicans. It's gone the other way, but more often than not, Republicans are the money people, and they're not the ones doing the stonewalling. The ones doing the stonewalling are the Democrats, because they try to hold up the votes. Because that's pretty much all that they're good at. Republicans are good at filibustering, at not hearing things, and Democrats are really good at actively blocking things. But this hit piece, if it's authentic, and I don't know if it is, I don't have the time to go scrutinizing sources or to try to figure out where everything came from. I just don't have that kind of time. if it's authentic, it's still not going to affect the president because it's not evidence of tax fraud. It's not evidence of Federal Election Commission funding violations. It's not evidence that he's done anything illegal. All this is evidence that he has used every single possible tax deduction and tax evasion technique that we have in our corporatized legal system, in our tax system, in our tax code. He's used every single evasive technique that corporations have successfully lobbied into existence for the last, 50, 60 years. So he's used the entire toolkit. He's worked within the law. Everything he's done has been legal. This isn't going to affect him at all. It's not evidence of a crime. He's definitely not getting impeached. He's too busy making everybody rich and getting us trade deals with Canada and Mexico that bring factory jobs back to the Midwest, where most of the jobs left for China and other places. He's too busy bullying China with threats of tariffs and other executive actions unless they back down and stop sending us this junk steel. He's too busy making America rich for the average American to care that, he engaged in some aggressive and admittedly shady business dealings in the 90s that were all legal at the time and probably still are. This isn't going to affect him at all. If this was your October surprise, the left, you need to step up your game, because this is not going to persuade Americans. And if you listen to Scott Adams at all, facts, reason, and evidence work for people like me in the middle. But for most people, for most average working Americans, you need to be more persuasive than factual. And this is not a persuasive argument to the average working American who is concerned about paying their bills, feeding their kids. That's what they care about. And this doesn't affect them. This is a hit piece about a president who may have used every single tax loophole that has ever existed. He's a multi-billionaire with international name recognition. Of course he's used every single tactic in the book to get there. And he didn't get international recognition by hemorrhaging money. He's a lot smarter than people think he is. I saw a video, it's a short 2.5 minute video that Michael Moore put up on his channel, where he fucking admits that Donald Trump outsmarted everybody. Michael Moore gets it. DJT outsmarted all of you. He won, you lost. He continues to win because, surprise, he has people on your side giving him information. They're called moles, they're called Judas goats. They're using your vices against you to undermine your efforts. He is way smarter than you think he is. Way smarter. He has a network of 1960s era ex-CIA spooks. He has hundreds or possibly even thousands of people working for him that come from the intelligence background, that know information about every corner of the world. He is a lot smarter and a lot more connected than you give him credit. And he's certainly the better choice than anybody on the Democrat side. So I strongly recommend the Democrats run. Who was the recent one? Elizabeth Warren. I think Pocahontas was threatening that she was going to run for president. Come on, Pocahontas. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you can bring against the most recognizable name in the world.